Let's begin. Hello, I'm Eric.
Hi.
This is Mateo.
Hello.
That's Jenna. This is going to be the inaugural episode of a series I want to start doing, kind of deconstructing and unpacking songs that I've recorded. This first episode is going to be the band Stillhungry, which I'm also in, with Jenna and Mateo. And we're going to do a song called Sunco, which, correct me if I'm wrong, was the first thing we ever did together as a band.
Yeah, it was. Yes,
So-
it seems like so long ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
It wasn't that long ago. I think this was in 2019. But I'm excited to kind of dig into it. I started yesterday a little bit just to prepare for this, and I was actually pretty surprised. There's a lot of things I didn't remember the way I thought they were. So one disclaimer, too, is as I do more of these, the majority of the ones to come, I have a lot of documentation of the sessions themselves. This one I don't, for a couple reasons. One, because when we started on this, it was more of a recreating a demo. We weren't sure that we were even making an album. And then also it was a band that I was in, so I just didn't keep all of the elaborate notes I usually keep for like a session. So in the future I'll have more of them, but I was smart enough to, at least while we were recording, write down like the mics and pre's and signal chains, and I just don't have as many pictures and sort of like track sheets and stuff. But anyway,
Is that because you wouldn't have to recall them the same way, or like what is the?
I just sort of do that like when I'm doing like a big like week-long session. I get all my paperwork out and take pictures. Oh yeah, to recall them. Yeah, pictures of where the mics are placed. So for a lot of the ones to come, I'll have like actual pictures of that session. I found a few pictures of related sessions, and I think one of when we were doing the strings on this. So I'll pull them up as we go, but not as much as usual. Usually I'll have like 30 pictures of every drum mic, and just go crazy with it for recall. So okay, so let's check this out. The first thing I have, which is really interesting, was the demo Matt sent us of this song.
Oh boy.
Which, did you record this? How long before we worked on this did you write it?
So this was probably 3 months prior to us recording it, which was when did we record this? Like when did we start recording it at like Cedar?
Oh,
Really?
We started this
recording
song
it
here, yeah. Probably. Oh, I can tell you.
April or so.
I can look at the session when it first got made. So let's see. We first made this session
Wow. That's
on February 26th.
Wow.
So,
So like almost a little less than a year ago. A little more than a year ago. Excuse me.
yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So this was probably like around my birthday
Mhm.
of the year of 2018.
Yeah.
Holy guacamole. Yeah, which is November, for anybody that doesn't know. I don't know why I said my birthday and assumed that everyone knew my birthday.
So let's check it out. I'm going to play Matt's demo. A lot of things are weirdly similar, and then there are some things that are very different, especially the structure.
And the tempo.
The tempo is actually exactly the same,
Really?
or maybe like 1 or 2 BPM closer, but these parts all seem to line up.
That's cool.
We'll see. But you had a whole other end of the song that we removed,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
interesting. So I won't play this in its entirety, but enough to sort of get the vibe going. So, yeah, as it goes on, that's about the instrumentation that's in there. Some of the vocal phrasing's a little different. I think one or two of the words are different. But like the riff and drum beat are pretty much exactly the same, which I think was what was magnetic about it and why we were like, okay, let's start with this. This is cool. It's like a 2-part harmony, and we were like figuring out that we wanted to do a lot of harmonies and stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad we kept the guitar and drums though, because that was that is such a good foundation. No matter what you build upon it after that, we knew it was gonna be cool because they were such cool parts, you know.
Yeah, the whole song just has like a vibe right away, and it kind of just doesn't really change. The only thing, even in the final version of it when we finished, all that happens is things sort of get added, but the groove and the like ostinato on the guitar just kind of go the whole time, which is neat. Cool. So I have the final master in here, which we might reference at some points. So that the session we're in right now was the last session we tracked into. So this is what got sent to be mixed by Tim Piniella, who I think probably mixed a lot of the things I'll be doing in this series. He's a close friend of mine. I've been working with him forever. He's incredible. I trust him a lot. We trust him a lot. He mixed this whole record. There's slight sonic differences. I'm sure he was tweaking things in the mix, but these are the tracks that he got. So, and then the mastering was done by a guy named Philip Shaw-Bova, who I've been using a lot. He lives up in Canada. He's incredible. Does a very good job with really dynamic, kind of less in your face, super loud recordings, less pop, less super rock and roll, and really killed it on this. So this is if we have referenced it, that's what the master is. It's what we have, then mixed by Tim Piniella and mastered by Phil Bova.
He did really kill it.
He did a great job. I was very, very happy with it. Okay, so I would usually, I think, start a lot of these by looking at the drums, but the drums weren't the first thing we recorded into this, which is a little unusual. So in Pro Tools here, I'm going to check this out. So this was the very first thing we recorded in this song. Which just keeps going, you know, throughout. There's a different part for the chorus. But it's pretty straightforward. And I'll get into talking about that sound in 1 second. But the next thing we did immediately after was the acoustic, which is a double of it. The idea was to kind of make the electric and the acoustic be one sound. So this is the acoustic alone. Same thing, chorus part. And it's a double. It's not that perfect of a double, which I kind of liked, and we liked that it's like a little loose, but it's basically one sound. So the interesting thing was, because we didn't really know what the end goal was, this electric guitar is just plugged into like the front of a 7602 preamp. It's just DI. There's no amp or anything. And if I go back in the hidden tracks, I didn't even put a fake amp on it. I just put this J37 setting I've sort of made that kind of like saturates and puts a little bit of delay and kind of sounds like a weird Beatlesy DI'd guitar. So this is all this really is. So if we listen to it, this is without it.
What kind of guitar was it? That's the question. Probably a Telecaster, right?
So I'm pretty sure this guitar in this was this guitar. I'm 99% sure that it was this guitar.
Huh. The Les Paul Special.
A Les Paul Special that's been mine forever, and the reason we used it is because it was down here in the basement.
It's completely proximity based.
But yeah, pretty weird, and DI electric guitar is definitely cool, but I don't even know if that was our intention. We probably meant to re-record it at some point, and then it just sounded so cool with the acoustic that we were like, that's the sound.
Yeah, that was a big part of the demo too, was like, I specifically remember referencing like Fleetwood Mac and how like they have the weird like, I don't know, this is just how it sounds to me, I don't know if this is a real thing, but like what we talked about the other day, where like they'll have the amp mic'd and the guitar in the room mic'd and like just like stereo. The amp and the actual room, and it's like a weird like hand.
Yeah.
That was kind of the whole.
We've ended up actually doing that too, like mic in the strings of the electric. It's cool. I mean, if I play the sounds together, it becomes the sound of the song, which is really neat. So like this is just the two of them together. And they're not even panned separately. I actually have them panned to the exact same point, so it almost sounds like one guitar. So, pretty neat. Started with that. I think we did that to a click. And then I had always been under the impression that we just made a... So Matteo played both those guitars. The riff is 100% Matteo. He came with the riff. It's almost exactly like the demo. Then, the drums aren't a loop. I thought we made a loop out of the drums. Like the boop, boop, psh, boop, 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 psh, boop, boop, boop.
Yeah. Right, we didn't.
It's not. If you go through this, which we can, there are like little idiosyncrasies throughout the entire thing, and it's in no way a loop. I definitely nudged things to grid it a little bit. It was Rose that we made a loop.
I remember that, but this too. I only played like 2 bars of the song.
No.
Really?
The whole thing is a performance. I was shocked by that.
Wow.
So I can play the drums a little bit.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And you can hear like Matteo like, you know, moving around in there and stuff. So these are the drums.
That's so weird. I do not remember that at all.
And there's like little breaks there. There's like a... The pattern continues where it would usually break here to stop on the next thing. There's all like little idiosyncrasies. It's really interesting. So, turns out the drums are a live performance of the song.
Wow.
The drums themselves, really, really simple as well. This was sort of the kit I had set up in my basement just for demoing, and I didn't change it. We just sat down, and it's actually the drums. I probably shouldn't do this.
Kit, right?
No. It's this exact kit with these toms. I'm going to take the GoPro over there really quick because this is not how it was mic'd. Obviously, this is really elaborate, and I used like 3 mics on Sunco. But it was this kick, that snare, that floor tom. This is a Superphonic, Mike L's Superphonic. My friend Mike, who I have a lot of his drums right now. An old Cloud Badge Slingerland 24-inch kick drum. And then these concert toms that I got from Chris Donofrio, who we'll be talking about in our Deal Casino episode a lot. And this rack tom. There actually, unfortunately, was a rack tom on, I think, when we recorded this. We didn't use it at all, obviously. But the mic setup is not relevant. It was just, this is sort of how we... This is the kit that was used that I just had set up in my house. But... Oh, that's not level. There we go. Okay, but
it's very crooked still.
Is it crooked?
Yeah.
How's that? That looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. But I do have notes on how it was mic'd, which are just mics that I sort of left up. So in the Pro Tools session here, it says the kick was an R84, which is a ribbon mic. Going through my consoles preamps, which is interesting because I have a lot of like boutique outboard preamps, but I just left the drums always going through my console preamps just because it's quick and easy. So going through the console preamp, through an Electra EQ by Cush Audio, and then through a TLA 50 Summit Audio. Not doing very much, I wouldn't think. The Electra I probably just used to carve out some resonance stuff. The TLA 50 is probably barely doing anything. The snare is a D224E by AKG, which I use on snare a lot. A lot of these videos, you'll see it. It's like a dual capsule dynamic mic. Very interesting. You know, kind of sounds like a dynamic mic. I just like the way it voices snare. That's going through an Electra EQ too, which are really cool for messing with drums. And then 1176, which probably was hitting pretty hard. Like if I listened to it, I would think that it's getting smacked. Yeah. So
that's the top or bottom.
That is, there is no bottom snare.
Only one snare.
It was just a snare top mic. And then this is the kick. Yeah, just Sounds like a big Radio King.
So the
drum.
mic setup was 2 overheads, a kick mic, and a snare mic?
So that's where it gets interesting, too. There were 2 overheads in Glyn Johns, and I ended up just using the right one, which is the one traditionally over the floor tom and ride, not the one over the snare.
Huh.
If you look in the session... My dog's barking. If you look in the session, the left overhead is all the way down, muted. So the right overhead was a WA47, which is like a U47 clone by Warm Audio. Use it on every session through this compressor called a tweaker, made by Kush Audio. That's really awesome. And I'm interested to listen to this too, because this is just the right overhead of a Glyn Johns 3-mic setup. Yeah, really the kick and snare mics are just sort of reinforcing, wow, my dog is going ham, are just sort of reinforcing the kick and snare, and that's it. Like, really the whole sound of it is this overhead.
Can you solo the snare again real quick? So most of the low end from the snare is coming from the snare track, and then the like, shimmeriness, right?
Yeah, yeah, and there's no cymbals in this take either. It's just kick and snare, the whole thing. So it's easy to kind of massage them to sound right when you have to worry about cymbals and roominess. I think I only sent Tim the 3 tracks. So it was these 3. And then just in the session here, if we look now, there's nothing on it on the tracks themselves, plug-in wise. I'm sending a little bit to a room reverb I always keep in every session. And then I'm just doing like some light EQ, kind of hyping it up, and actually not much, just the top end and a little bit of compression. But this wasn't used in the mix. This is just for us listening back. So, finishing up the drums, the other really important part of the drum set in this song are 2 additional percussion tracks that I played. Yeah.
With the Thunder Sticks, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of them is labeled brushes, but I think you're right that it was with Thunderstick or hot rods or something.
Hot rods, yeah, excuse me.
So that's this.
Yeah,
Yep.
I remember this.
No,
On a wooden rim.
on the rim of the kick drum.
Right.
This goes the whole song. And the other track was me playing on my legs, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just like
I remember that.
And both of these go the whole time. And those are definitely full performances, because there's lots of idiosyncrasies and like dug-a-dunk-dumps that sort of just happen just to kind of try and keep it loose.
Yeah.
But that right there is like the entire drum sound of the song. And then at that point, that was the first thing we had, was just the 2 guitars and that. Both of those percussion tracks were just done, it looks like, using the same 47 that was on the right side of the Glyn Johns setup. Just turned it on and recorded on those, nothing special. Okay.
Wow.
I guess
That leg pat sounds really
the leg
good.
pat is nice.
Nice tone.
I don't think bass was the next thing we did, but I'll just kind of pull that up now. But just to sort of fill out the functional bed of the track. But I think I cut bass after the fact, and then like after we had even done the scratch vocals, and then I actually redid the whole bass right before I sent it to Tim, with the same setup and everything, because I was unhappy with some of the notes. But this bass part, if we solo it, is just a Hofner DI. Which is the greatest sound on earth.
I would agree.
Hofner DI'd is like a very close sound to my soul. And
Nice.
there's really nothing going on. It was just DI'd straight into the Langevin pre I have. That I might have had some compression on it because it has a built-in opto compressor, but very little, it sounds like. And then when listening back, all I did was boost 700, which is a weird thing to do on bass, but it gets that throatiness out, and a little bit of compression, which I don't think... Yeah.
What did you say you boosted?
700. Which is usually a pretty ugly frequency, but I love it on the Hofner. Yeah, and it's just getting lightly compressed for listening back. But I don't like to compress the Hofner too much because the pick attack and how you play it are such an important part of the sound of that instrument. So I try and keep it like let the dynamics sort of exist in the hands. But Hofner club bass.
Lower pickups, right?
I think so. I'm not sure. I've definitely changed a lot of things out on that bass, but it's a Hofner club bass. Just DI'd, that's it. So, yeah. That's like the majority of this song are those instruments other than all the vocals and like little overdubs that add a lot. So, I mean, when the band kicks in finally in verse 2... Cool. So now, before we go on to anything else, I want to talk about the scratch vocals we initially did. So let me pull them up. They're hidden.
Oh God, is this me doing the high vocal too?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone's saying their part. So for this band, being the first thing we did, this was like a really foundational experience, and we were like really experimenting with the idea of how are we going to have 2.5 or 3 singers in a band, but not have it sound like duets, not have it necessarily sound
Stepping on each other's toes.
too theatrical, just let it be like songs with multiple singers. Which I know has been done, but to me it was a tricky idea to navigate.
Yeah, it's a difficult balance to strike.
Yeah, and this song to me is one of the best versions of how to do it. I really think this was a success. That it doesn't feel like a duet, but Jenna and Matt basically sing in harmony the whole time, and I join later in the song. But I'm interested to listen to this. I haven't gone too deep into this. These are the guide vocals we did kind of to learn the parts. I think we comped them a little bit, but this is pretty much what we sang.
It's cold, it's so cold.
Pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Which is cool. There's one big difference, which is when I come in, my whole harmony on the final version is all lower than both of yours.
Right.
No, in the pre-chorus.
Right.
I had done it way higher, which is interesting. So if you listen here...
I don't remember that.
It's alright to fight with me.
Not there. Here. Maybe that.
About not caring at all. And it's alright.
Oh! It was on a different track. Hold on, I found it. I had been experimenting, yes. So this is the original harmony. Was...
I know that you've been slumping, wearing dirty rags and sitting still.
Which is weird.
Get out of here. I don't remember.
Said you wouldn't break it, but you will.
That's so weird.
Which is interesting.
We should bring that back for live
Why don't we
performance.
you should re-release this with it's like 10 different harmonies in it.
Yeah,
I love that.
I think that is just an octave higher than my existing part, but I think that when we once we got the main vocals from you guys and I was trying to figure out what I was going to sing, I think it just sat nice to keep it like really low the whole time. That kind of takes away, I think, from the main melody. But I did not remember that.
I didn't either.
So these were in the session probably pretty soon after the drums and guitar, and that's sort of what we had as a guide for the remaining overdubs. So guitars, acoustic and electric guitar, drums were all done down here. This is right before I moved out of my basement into Cedar, a studio that I was in for about a year. So that was all done down here. The bass, I have no idea where it was done. And these vocals, these guide vocals were done down here. Everything else, with the exception of the piano, which I'll get to next, and the toy piano sound in the pre-chorus, those were both done down here as well. Everything else was done at Cedar, a few miles away. That's where we did the final vocals. That's where we did strings. That's where we did the Nashville guitar. And
No, we did the Nashville here, definitely.
Oh, we did the Nashville here.
Yeah, right there, I remember that.
Okay, so never mind. We did the Nashville. So I'll show those three next. And then, yeah, so strings, B3, lead vocals were all done at Cedar. So I'm going to do those last, because those were really the final steps in this production. So I guess going down the line, the next big overdub, which you might not hear if you listen to the master, it's a bit of like just a feeling, is the Nashville acoustic overdub, which, if anyone's not familiar with Nashville tuning, I will get the guitar.
We just lost
You
Jen's
just call her back,
audio.
it's fine.
What's up?
Just call her back.
Eric loves his
hold on.
Nashville
It's
tuning.
underneath my light.
Jenna, I lost you. Pick up your phone really quick.
Hello. Can you hear
okay.
me? Oh.
This is a Nashville strung
back.
guitar.
You there?
Wow, it's not in tune.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, never mind. But basically a regular acoustic guitar, E A D G B E, normal tuning, except the lowest four strings, E A D G, are an octave higher. So the easiest way to do that is to buy a 12-string pack and just use the higher set of strings. But the cool thing is when you, it's very shimmery, and when you double another acoustic with it, it kind of creates a bit of a 12-string vibe, but a little looser and a little more sparkly and kind of interesting and chorusy. So that was this. I think Matt also played this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same riff as the other guitars too. It
Yeah.
just sounds
Yeah.
very different because of the octaves that it's being played in.
And it's just in the choruses, it looks like. So... So it is different. It's strumming eighth notes, whereas the other ones are doing whole notes.
Yeah, I was actually referring to the outro, I realized, which is this, the riff.
Yeah.
Pretty
So
crazy.
in the choruses, it is doing something a little different. I forgot to mention how all those things were recorded. So the acoustic was recorded with a Dragonfly, which is a condenser, into a 7602, which is a Neve 1073 clone. No compression or anything. We were listening to it back with just a massive high-pass filter on it to get rid of some low end. That's the only thing that seems to be going on here. And then the Nashville acoustic, I recorded with an R84, which is a ribbon, because it's a little painful in the top, so just kind of chill out the top end. And 7602 as well, tweaker, the same compressor that was on the overheads. And then the reason it sounds all wide and crazy when you play it back, like chorusy and wide, is from an Eventide pitch factor pedal, where you can like static detune the left and right channels little amounts, like an old Eventide rack unit would. I can't show it to you because the GoPro is currently sitting on the pedal. But it's called an Eventide pitch factor, and it
so
will.
that's pre.
That was to tape.
Oh, okay,
yeah, there's
cool.
no
Got it.
there's no plugins on this doing that.
That's awesome.
So, the pedal's great, and it'll go mono to stereo, so you just go into it line level, like after the compressor, and then just into converters with it, which is cool, like a Eventide rack unit. And I think we just did that to sort of spread out the choruses and get them to hit wider and bigger. And then let me skip the toy piano, because the piano itself is actually very simple. Weird part, but this is the piano. I think it just does that.
It's a brilliant piano part.
Three notes, very flammed, pedal down the whole time so the piano's ringing like a reverb, and they're a hemiola, which is they go in groups of 3 over a groove that's in 4. So it kind of recycles itself in interesting places, but it kind of sounds like this. Apparently faded it out at some point, not sure why. But that's just like a glitter overdub. That was the upright piano that's right here. It's like the perfect amount of out of tune. A pair of EV635A, which are really cool mics that I use a lot. They're omnidirectional dynamic mics.
You use that on the piano?
Yeah.
Why?
I love them on the piano because so you get a little less weird phasey stuff if you're recording a piano in stereo when they're in omni, because there's no off-axis bass bump. Sorry, this is extremely nerdy. But they hear the stuff behind it a little more, but it's not a problem if all you're recording is piano. And I just love the way dynamic mics sound on piano in general. They get rid of a lot of the spikiness and just keep the attack like real soft and the hammer sound real soft.
Well, my question is, so what is the other side of the omnidirectional recording on a piano? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it just hears everything equally in every direction.
Ah, okay. So when you mic a piano,
yeah,
do you want to mic it like long ways omnidirectional, or?
These were probably both like, if I was at the piano, just right here.
Okay.
Left and right, pretty close to the hammers.
Cool.
When you use mics that are cardioid or more standard polar pattern, they hear differently on the sides and the back than they do in front of them. So they hear more bass on the sides. It's called like an off-axis bass response.
Huh.
And sometimes that can create weird phasing stuff, and you really gotta struggle to get them placed in a way that makes sense with the part. And these I just sort of leave on my piano because I can just jump over and play it, and they sound pretty in phase. Like, I don't know, let's put my BS to the test here. Let's see how in phase they really are. Yeah. So nothing's really being canceled. Yeah, really in phase. So, just sounds nice, sounds like a piano, soft attack. Spending way too much time talking about this piano. So the next sound is the real gem that I'm excited for. So there's this sound in the pre-chorus, which Jenna, when we play live, plays it on like a kind of trippy, whirly sound, I think.
Yep.
Like vibrato-y, delay-y.
Yeah, with the vibrato way up, yep.
I'm just going to play the sound. So that comes back 2 more times in the song.
Yeah.
And I knew we did crazy stuff to sort of make this.
It's a very interesting pedal called My Stupid Voice.
So I'm going to unhide these tracks. I found the tracks that I bounced down. If you look at my sessions, you'll also see I'm a big fan of bouncing down. Like lots of tracks that I know are going to have a particular balance. I'll just commit to the balance and send that to Tim. Makes his life easier, takes away decisions that we'd have to make. Like, oh, the 4 tracks that make that sound, I want to bring up the second one. Like, no, that's the sound. It's over. Let's move on. So, what we did was, I had the EV635A in the control room, the dynamic Omni mic, handheld. Put it through a reamper. I didn't even remember that we did all this. Put it through a Big Muff fuzz pedal, black Russian Big Muff pedal, just fuzz. Then through an El Capistan by Strymon, which has, but I'm only using the spring reverb. That pedal has a cool spring reverb in it. And then it went through a vibrato after, which putting vibrato last, that's a big part of the Well Wisher song I'm going to talk about, the Lucas's guitar sound. When you put vibrato after reverb and fuzz and all that, it's vibratoing everything, including the tail of the sound. And so 3 of the tracks are Matt singing that melody through a fuzz on this very elaborate signal chain. And the last one... I have no
recollection of that.
What was that?
I have no recollection of that.
Me and Mateo did that alone, I think. I think this was... You were on tour with Wellwisher.
That's right.
Yeah, for a portion of doing this album, nothing major, like not vocals, but there were some overdubs that me and Mateo sort of did while we were missing our friend Jenna, who was on tour. So, deconstructing this part is pretty interesting. So here's voice 1. Oh, sorry. And we got voice 2, which is a double. I'm going to take all this reverb off of it too, because then this is in a high octave. And then the toy piano, which I think you just pointed the mic at and hit the keys.
So weird.
Yeah. And the result is the sound.
Wow.
Which is great.
That's so
Love it.
Weird.
I can't believe I never knew that's what that was.
Yeah. That was very...
It's the last time I ever go away on tour without you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's pretty cool, because I think that's like a really defining like sound in this song. Like it's something that's got its own identity. It's not familiar, but it's a nice counter melody in the pre-chorus. I think that's why we did it, because if you listen with the vocals, we were like, something should sit in between these vocals. So,
yeah, I don't believe that anything like that is in the demo. I think that's just an empty space.
That was me saying, oh, I wanted something to take the focus, and you were like, I got an idea. So here's how it interacts with the vocal.
I know that you've been slumping, wearing dirty rags and sitting still. I promised to your mother, said you would.
Just classic switch of
classic
focus.
4 fuzzed out vocals and a toy piano through a fuzz pedal.
Exactly. Cool. So there's actually not that much else in this song, which is interesting to me, because it does sound pretty dense when I listen back to the master.
Yeah. But
there's not a ton going on, and everything's very in and out. Like the only things that go the whole song are like bass drums and that weird double guitar. So I'm unsure of the order of the remaining things. There's strings, B3, and vocals. Did we do vocals last?
I think we did strings before we did vocals.
And then we did the organ. I remember we did organ on all the songs in one quick session.
Yeah, that was Mark Macefield did that.
Mark Macefield played this, which he's incredible, and I'm excited to solo this track, because there's a lot of very interesting organ B3 stuff. Okay, so strings. The strings, we recorded. I think it was, it was my friend Jen, who I played in a band with for a long time. Incredible string player. Jen Fantaccione, I think is how you pronounce her last name. Very New Jersey Italian. Love it. I think it's all cello. I think Jen doubles on violin, but I think this is only cello. And if I go into the session, I recorded these with a bit of a nerdy technique as well, which I have a picture of. So I recorded them using a technique called MS, which is a stereo recording...
Mid-side,
where you use 2 mics. One of them is facing the source, and it's in cardioid, and then the other one is very close, but in figure 8, facing 90 degrees off axis of the source. So the front of the mic would be, if I was pointing at the camera, the figure 8 mic would be going this way.
Completely like perpendicular is the word, right?
And then, perpendicular to the source. And then what you do is, you keep the mid channel, the front-facing cardioid channel, and then you mult or duplicate the side channel and flip the phase on one of the mults. And what that now allows you to do is have control. Oh, my battery is low on my laptop, even though it's plugged in. Hold on.
Can you, while you're walking around, can you explain what molting is?
Molting.
Is that like this, like what birds do every year, right?
Yes.
Snakes.
Sorry.
So you take the one mic and you get rid of all of its feathers. Here, let me help you out.
I think it's good.
Okay, cool.
Okay, we're charging again. This is a great first episode here.
Terrific.
Just copying it. So I did it in Pro Tools. You can see all I did was routed my one mic here. I mean, whatever, coming in on converter 24. And then this one was coming in on converter 1. And I just set both inputs of these auxes to 1 and then put it through an EQ where all I did was flip the phase, the like simple Pro Tools EQ. And then I sent them out of a bus and used that bus to print to actual audio channels. And as I was doing it, if you lower the two side channels, you can get a more narrow stereo image. And if you raise them and lower the center channel, you get an artificially wide stereo image. It's actually how we recorded the majority of the acoustics on our album we were just working on, which who knows when it'll be out, but a lot of the acoustic guitars were recorded that way, with mid-side. So, if you look in Pro Tools, these 3 tracks here are just to feed, they receive the actual input from the converters, from the microphone preamps, and then they just send through a bus to these print tracks where I actually recorded the cello. So, I'll hide them again. We did cello actually all throughout this song, but it only ended up being kept from the second pre-chorus on. I think there was just, we wanted it to grow more. There's a lot of growing. It's just things basically just add throughout the arrangement. But where they do exist here, let's see what we got. Pretty cool part. Definitely collaborated with Jen on that, because that's like close seconds in movement. But so here's one soloed. All that's on it in Pro Tools is a little bit of compression, and I think that's just for listening back. I'm sure Tim did other things to it. But the mics were a TS2, which is made by Chameleon Labs. It's kind of like a big, fat tube condenser mic, and a 414. And they were recorded through Chandler Germanium pre's, no compression, no EQ. And that's just what they sound like. Great room, great cellist, great performance, good mic setup. Sounds good.
I have a question.
Yeah, 1 second. I do have, this is one of my few photos, so I'm very excited. This, if on the screen now, is a picture of the MS setup, Jen sitting with a cello, and then I think I had that small cap condenser microphone for when she played violin on some other song set up. But there's violins on Rose, Stones, so we did record violin that day. It was just mostly cello for this song. And that's it. And there's a cool deer head, which is terrifying, with sunglasses on. This is just Jen chilling in the studio. And that's Mateo chilling in the studio. And I do have, there's Jenna chilling in the studio. These, I figured I'd pull them up anyway, even though they're less relevant. This was the drum mic setup we used for the majority of the drums on the record, other than this song. All the ones Erik Novod played, you can see it's set up lefty. So this was the setup we did at Cedar for a ton. Pretty much everything other than like Rose, Sunco, and Sunday. I think. Yeah.
Is that a...
What?
Where are they set up?
In
the
Cedar.
Same side they usually are?
No, the other side.
Oh, because he's a lefty.
Yeah, left-handed.
Wow.
So what were you going to say about the strings?
What is the purpose or benefit of using mid-side on strings as opposed to, say, like a vocal or something? Like, is there a reason that you decided to use it on, like, the acoustic guitar that we just recorded, or, like, Jen's cello, and why don't you use it on other things?
Well, the first big difference is just doing something in mono or doing it in stereo. Mm-hmm. You know, so like mono's going to be very pinpoint. You can pan it around. Stereo's going to have like, even if you pan the left side straight up and then the right side all the way to one side, there's still a spectrum between it. So you now have a field of sound. Mm-hmm. So doing something very organic like a cello or an acoustic guitar on a recording that I want to sound organic, stereo can be nice if there's enough room in the arrangement mm-hmm. for it. And the thing about doing it in MS that I love being able to base, because then I can either keep it mono if I just use the M channel in case we get too dense of an arrangement, like all the strings on Stones, all the weird, like those ended up, we had so many tracks, I just kept the M for most of them, kept the mid channel. And I can decide that later, which is nice. With MS2, also with something like an acoustic guitar on our new stuff, that I wanted to be a very big presence in the song. I wanted to take up a lot of space. So I could, on a lot of the songs, the side channels are boosted a lot, so it feels super wide and big and spacious. And it just gives you a lot of control, either as you're doing it or after you're doing it, to control how wide a stereo image is. Okay. It's kind of an elaborate setup. Like if you're trying to get something done quick, like there's a lot of routing and patching, and it can be annoying, but if you're going to have one session for a while, I like MS. It was like, I started off my career recording a lot of orchestral and chamber music, and that was all we used. You know, like I really, really have a fondness for MS and your ability to sort of change how it feels and sits with other tracks as you're doing it.
That's so interesting to me because I feel like there's so much going on in an orchestra that you would want things to take up less space so that there's room for other instruments.
That's only using 2 mics to record the whole orchestra.
Oh, for the whole orchestra.
Yeah. Not on every instrument.
Like what?
Wow.
Or with some additional spots, but the MS would be like the main dude. And then there might be, we're going to put a spot mic on the solo piano during a concerto, but like basically the sound of that recording was the MS with its width predetermined. Yeah, actually, there is a Toy Cars featuring Prim song called Eerie, which Prim is Jenna's other project, and Toy Cars is the band Matt's also in, rock band, and they did a song that Jenna was featured on long before this band existed, and the sound of the main guitar in that is an MS pair in front of you playing, this is everything we've talked about, it's all coming together, playing an electric hollow body.
345, right?
Yeah, a 345 in front of the amp, so the MS pair hears your fingers on the strings and the amp itself in the room, and we moved everything until it was the right balance.
Yeah, I remember that.
And if you want to go check that song out, Eerie, that is a great example of a wide MS in the room kind of sound.
Very interesting.
There's one other neat thing with the strings here. We had this flutter, that we sort of used as a transitional moment, which now we'll look in the session. I bounced down to a stereo track, but it's a group of cello tracks trilling on different notes, and I think some of the trills are very close, like seconds. So it sounds dense and intense. And this is what the bounce down combination sounds like. And that's just in the song, like as a transition.
Never came to see me.
Kind of moves energy forward.
That's so crazy sounding.
So we can deconstruct that a little bit. It looks like it's 4 tracks of cello, recorded the same way, through that same MS setup. And I think I'll kind of solo each one. Wow, there's a lot of bleed from the control room. Like the low end is crazy. Okay. It's 2 parts doubled. Two different trills doubled. And then the combination of them sounds like this. Which is what's in there. It's twice. I think I just flew it. I think Jen only played it once, and it goes into the outro as well. But that's a neat little nugget. Okay. Last 2 things. Vocals, and we'll do the B3 last. Mm-hmm. So, I remember this you guys can help me with. We did a really elaborate mic shootout.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
we did.
I remember that, too.
Yeah. We were all like, vocals are so important in this band. We're going to try every mic. And Tim, who mixed it, actually came and sort of blind, like helped with the blind listen, like recorded them all and wouldn't tell us which was which so we could pick the right mic. So I have notes on them here, but we ended up with the TS2, the mic that was the mid on the cello, as Jenna's vocal mic. This a CV12, which is made by Avantone, that Tim has completely turned into C12s. He has two of them. He replaced the transformer and the tube and the head basket. So essentially a C12-esque microphone on Mateo. And then for me, we ended up just loving the SM7. I'm not sure why.
Because it's sick.
Because it's sick. It's great. But those are the vocal mics on the whole record. There's one song, I think Stones, where we used a scratch vocal from Jenna. And Sunday, we used a scratch vocal from Matt. And those were on a WA-47.
47.
Yeah, that was just what was in my room, but set up. But these are the three mics we used on their vocals. Both of them went through a compressor. Jenna went through a TLA 100, and Matt went through a TLA 50. Jenna's was recorded through a Chandler TG channel probably with some EQ on it. And then Matt was recorded through a 7602, which is a Neve 1073 clone. And then my vocals through a 7602 as well by Chameleon Labs. Other than that, no processing. I always have a little bit going on plugins, especially for vocals, so people can hear themselves when they sing and sort of like be more excited about it. So it looks like while we were tracking, I just had a little bit of EQ, which was like ducking 1K.
On who?
On Jenna. I'm looking at Jenna's right now. Ducking 1K and high passing to 70, which pretty arbitrary with the high pass. I probably could go much higher. And a little bit of 1176 compression just to keep things exciting. But I'd be willing to bet that if I go to a part where Jenna sings quiet, it's not even compressing. So.
It's alright to fight with me.
And then this is the loudest she sings in the song.
To me.
Still like 5-6 dB. It's just enough to kind of like get it a little exciting. And then RVox just to keep it even in the headphones. But it looks like it's the same thing on all of them. This I just sort of slapped on while we were... Oh, mine I was cranking some top end, I guess because the SM7's darker. But, and then a little bit of reverb. And that... I mean, Tim, I'm sure, had a more elaborate setup. He really, really, really did a great job with the vocals on the record.
Good at mixing vocals.
They feel like very worked on, very automated, very massaged, very even. Mostly what I'm talking about, I'm not talking about like fixing or editing. I'm talking that the way Tim was sort of able to shape the sound sits in the track in a way that I'm so impressed by. And I remember hearing this song back the first time we got the mixes, just like shocked at how good of a job he did.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, not that I didn't expect him to, but it was, they sit
better
really
than
nice.
I even thought.
Yeah.
Very happy with how it all sounded.
So, really cool. The only thing that I sort of had in the session was the two moments in the song, the you had, right at the end of verse 1.
Reverb.
Delay.
Delay.
And then at the very end, with me, the really long last thing we sing. Both of those, I had a delay throw in the session that we, pretty much from the first second, were listening to. Like, they even performed listening to it. And that's still on the mix. Tim might have used a different delay, but this is the throw. You can see it in Pro Tools.
It was only a dream you had. You had.
Ah!
And then it's pitched.
And then, I think I automated...
You can't.
That's crazy. I think I automated the echo time. So I have it slightly nudge the pitch up, like raise the speed of the delay as it's going to make it feel like it's out of tune or going up. That's very nerdy. And then it happens in the last chorus.
To fight with me.
Yeah. Just some dramatic stuff.
I love the drama.
It's emo.
And that was in I think we've been listening with that on since the scratch vocals. Like we had committed to that trick pretty early on.
Fairly early on, yeah.
Yeah, in the demo, the vocal was just, you have...
Yeah. Let's check out the demo, actually. I'm interested to hear that.
Just that one line was just like staccato.
So short.
It's like the complete opposite.
That's a big difference.
Yeah. Huge.
Anything about the vocals in this? I mean, I can play a soloed little bit of them to kind of hear how the three mics sound, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah,
Sorry,
sure.
I'm just going to do it. Here's like a first chorus.
It's alright to fight on me, you know. In the dark, you lie to me, you know.
You know.
Yeah. And then together.
In the dark, you lie to me, you know.
Wow. We worked for a long time on the vocals for
Yeah.
all these songs.
Definitely.
So I think like we really dug into the... I think you went first on this song and sort of guided the phrasing, or did we not do that?
We actually, I think in the scratch vocals, the order that you just said is correct, but when we recut them, Jenna went first, which actually changed a lot of the phrasing from what the original vocal was.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like the, pocket is a little different, and like just Jenna, the way that Jenna phrases things is obviously way different than I do, like naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of, because I remember I struggled a bunch recording these because I was matching Jenna as opposed to just singing it the way that I normally would have sung it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's an interesting trick for bands that do a lot of harmony, especially ones that don't have a dedicated single lead singer. Because like, for me, usually most things I record, there's a lead singer, and then you would do a harmony or a background vocal to the comped, decided on lead vocal. Like that's sort of a big priority. Get the lead vocal, then we can do background vocals. And the phrasing that should be matched by whoever's harmonizing, whether it's the singer who sang the lead or someone else, is sort of determined. But with a song like this that's all two-part harmony, whoever goes first is going to make a lot of decisions, whether they intend to or not, that kind of should be followed.
Yeah.
And I guess for this one we sort of opted to have... I guess we were used to Matt's phrasing. We're like, Jenna, why don't you try singing it first? And there was some new ideas and new phrasings.
It's a trick we use quite a bit.
This one is a good one. This changed, for sure.
Oh, that you've been slumping, wearing dirty rags and sitting still.
The sitting still.
As opposed to sitting still.
Yeah, because in the demo, that was...
It was way different.
It's more like verse 1. Yeah. That's cool. And I think there's a lot of tiny nuggets like that in there.
Yeah.
Like a lot of nuggets.
Yeah.
Nuggets.
Cool. And then the last thing we did on this, I'm pretty sure, was the B3. We had our friend Mark Macefield come by, bring his B3 to Cedar, and he played on like 6 or 7 of the songs on the record.
Killed it.
There's a lot of B3 that doesn't sound like B3 on the record, which is kind of neat. I think we did some more traditional stuff on 1 or 2 songs, like Stay Out, I think, had some more traditional B3 on it. Moto, you can definitely tell. But then, like, this song and Get Well, it's kind of like in the synth pad territory. Really beautiful, really tasteful. I'm just going to play a little bit of it alone because it's amazing to hear what it's doing.
Sounds like Northern Lights.
Beautiful.
Is that like a tapey,
No. So what Mark's doing there is, and if he ever watches this, please correct me if I'm wrong. the vibrato on the B3 is up, so it's not just the spinning Leslie. There's actually vibrato happening, pitch vibrato.
Wow.
And then he was holding chords and adjusting drawbars to bring in more and less of like different order harmonics or like notes in the harmonic series to create that sort of like shifting, even though it's sort of just holding one chord. And that's what the key clicks are too, are the sound of a they're old instruments, so there's the drawbars are a little dirty. And
that's cool.
Pretty amazing. And all I did was high pass the living daylights out of it and compress the living daylights out of it for listening back. Because at that point there was so much, no low end was needed in this song. Mm-hmm. So, and organ is very dynamic because there's a volume pedal. So by compressing I could kind of even it out just to hear what he was doing. Not sure if Tim did the same thing when he mixed it. Maybe it's a lot more automation. But just to hear him while he was playing, I'd like to, we're listening back while he's in the other room, hear the quiet parts, hear the loud parts. But sort of here's like the entrance of it, which is so beautiful.
Is it in through that verse?
It's in the rest of the song, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a beautiful sound, and it's very wide. That was mic'd with two 414s, both through a 7622, which is just the preamp of a 1073, I guess. It's not the EQ. And if I unhide... Oh, I had mic'd the low rotor, but we didn't use that for this song. We maybe used that more for songs with like the grindy low-end stuff like Moto. But I just didn't even use the low...
Of the Leslie?
Yeah, probably a Beta 52 on the low speaker and then two 414s on the high speakers, and I just only used the high track. Because awesome. This song was very finished at this point, and it just needed some sparkle.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's kind of all that's in this song, which is interesting, because to me, it seems like a little less production than I would think listening back, but I think that's a testament to Tim doing a great job. And I think also we really committed to only having 3 vocal tracks for the majority of the songs on this record. So like the vocals can be pretty big because there's not like doubled, tripled background vocals.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't take up too much unnecessary space. Not that doubling a vocal is unnecessary.
No, just as a different thing.
In this song, I feel like it would have just been unnecessary,
Yeah, I think doubling can go a lot of different ways. It definitely hides idiosyncrasies in a voice, which can be a good or bad thing. But it can also help it cut through a really dense mix a lot. Like when you have just the single vocal, to keep it big is a challenge, to not crowd the space. And that was one of the things I was so impressed with. Like if we quickly just play a bit of the master, I mean, the vocals are there for sure. Like...
So cold, and you can feel that you've been slumping, wearing dirty rags and sitting still.
Cool.
Tim,
great job, Tim. We love you.
If you're watching this.
Yeah. So I don't really know how to end this thing. Is there anything you guys have that you wanted to bring up or talk about with this song?
I really dig your
I just
sweater.
think it's so cool listening back to this song this way and hearing it broken down, and I'm delighted by how much I learned, so thank you for explaining what actually went into our song that we, our first song. It's really cool to learn, all about the inner workings of it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm excited moving forward because I feel like every artist I work with has a different interest level and experience level in the recording end. And some of my favorite experiences have been with artists that either don't care or don't know anything about recording. It can be really freeing. And then some of my other favorite experiences, like I think I'm going to do one with Deal Casino, might be the next episode. Joe is extremely into recording and extremely knowledgeable of a lot of the things, and it actually unlocks a whole different side where we're able to collaborate on a technical level. And then there are other people I work with who are like, I don't care, about how you're recording this. And that frees a whole other creative side up.
Right.
But I'm excited to see all the differences of I guess how much you're learning now, I guess, listening back to this, or we're learning now, I'm learning listening back to it together.
That's kind of the goal of these videos, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's interesting because, like, you know, a record like this, and a lot of the records I'm going to be getting into, a lot of time and care and thought was put in the moment. And you sort of just get to only ever hear the final product. Like, you get to eat the baked cake when it's done, but you don't know how it was made. And I think that I forget a lot, you know, like, I mean, not forget, but like sort of the intricacies of it are just left as a memory. And then being able to go back and dive in and remember being there in that moment is pretty cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it makes you appreciate it more, so much more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Nice.
Great job, everyone.
Episode 1.
Yeah, and then, yeah, maybe there'll be credits or something. I also don't know anything about video editing, so we'll see about how this is all going to go.
We should get, like, you know, the intro to Star Wars, when it plays, like, in Galaxy Far, Far Away, we should, like, roll credits like that. It'll be like, thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yeah.
Watching.
Yeah, let's...
Jenna will help me with that.
Yeah.
She's like...
We'll talk about it, Eric.
Okay.
All right, thanks, bye.